Hello again, everyone, and welcome into the CBS News Texas stream. We are following breaking news this afternoon as the battle over redistricting in the state of Texas continues. Happy to have you along with us. I'm Ken Molestina. Our political reporter Jack Fink has made his way down to Austin. He's been there for a couple of days now. We find him inside the Capitol right now. Jack, we are 30 minutes away from the scheduled restart of the session here again. What's the mood like right now? What are things feeling like on this very tense Friday?
Well, 1 o'clock is the time that the House is set to convene, and the House chamber is just around the corner from us, and it's really anybody's guess at this hour whether there is going to be a quorum. On Tuesday, the last day they tried, they came very close. They had 96 members, so they were 4 short. 100 members are required to be there for quorum. I've been asking some lawmakers today, do they think there's going to be a quorum? One person told me they're not sure. Another person told me they don't think so. But let me bring in another member right now, Republican State Representative Jeff Leach. Alan, thank you so much.
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks for having me.
Of course, the big question now, obviously, are you going to be a quorum today, I think?
Well, we don't know. We've been working really hard to encourage our Democrat colleagues to come back to work, which is what their constituents expect them to do and what we hope that they will do. Whether we're going to get to 100 today, I'm not quite certain. We'll know here in about 30 minutes. But be assured that even if we don't get it today, we're going to keep coming back again, and again, day after day, special session after special session until we get this important work done. And our Democrats colleagues can choose to join us whenever they want.
I got to ask you, because today some Democrats are meeting in California with California Governor Newsom, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. What do you make of that? Does that bother you?
Absolutely, it bothers me, and it bothers the people of Texas too. I wish it bothered our Democrat colleagues more that they seem to be spending more time in blue states like Illinois, New York, and now California than they are here in the state of Texas, where they're required to show up for work, and it's frustrating. I think the voters of Texas, the people of Texas from all political persuasions, believe that it's wrong. They're all showing up for work today, and our Democrat colleagues should too. I hope that they'll wake up and realize that there's job to do here. We've got really important legislation, Jack, not only redistricting, but very important, vital legislation on flood relief and recovery, property tax reform, education reforms, including doing away with the STAR test. These are all things that hang in the balance, and if our Democrat colleagues continue to stay away and hide out in California, then the work of the people of Texas is not going to get done.
As you know, the Democrats point the finger back at Republicans saying, look, if the flooding is so important, why are you calling items like redistricting up and new congressional maps?
Well, we should be able to do all of it. My strong belief is that, like we always do here in the Texas House and the Texas Capitol, we handle the business of the people of Texas, the business that's important to them. That includes redistricting. It also includes all of these other matters, flood relief being at the top of the list. And so the order of business doesn't really matter to the people of Texas. That's inside baseball. The people of Texas expect for us to show up to work, which our Democrat colleagues are refusing to do right now, and do the hard work. Look, what I've told several of my Democrat colleagues that I've personally been in touch with this week is you can vote no. You can debate and stand on the floor of the Texas House and state your claim and state your position and try to convince others to vote with you. Vote no if you want. I'm voting yes on the redistricting map, but if they want to vote no, that's fine. But just to completely refuse to show up for work and to flee the state and to hide out in New York and Illinois and California is not what they're elected to do. Their voters expect them to show up for work, and like I said, I'm hoping that they'll do so sooner than later.
And so when you had this conversation with these Democrats, what did they tell you?
There seems to be agreement, Jack, from my Democrat colleagues, at least the ones that I've spoken with. Some of them at least want to be back to work.
So wait a minute. So why are they there?
Yeah, I think that the reality is they're being encouraged to, and in some cases, I don't know if the word threaten is too strong of a word, but that's one of them used with me, is they're being threatened by their party leaders nationwide to continue to fight back and to stay out of the state of Texas. So they've said they want to come back, but they don't feel like they can. I would encourage those state lawmakers to be adults and to do their job. They were elected to not just do the easy work, but to show up and do the hard work. Jack, there's been plenty of times that I've walked onto the House floor and lost a vote, or something's happened on the House floor that I disagree with. But just to refuse to come to work and refuse to show up and to, like I said, yes, hide out in other states or in some cases hide out in the state of Texas, even just a couple miles away from the Capitol, and not just show up here in the House chamber. They're neglecting their responsibilities, and it's really, really unfortunate.
The Democrats I've spoken to say they've had no choice, that they feel like they have to do this. The Texas Constitution allows them to break quorum because they're trying to protect their constituents from these new congressional maps, which would change those congressional districts. So what do you say to that?
Of course they have a choice. They could absolutely get on a plane or rent a car and come back to Texas. It's what their voters expect them to do. But if they're under the illusion that we're going to give up on this and that we're just going to go away and that this issue is going to go away, they're sorely and sadly mistaken. We are going to pass these redistricting maps in Texas, whether it's 5 seats or maybe more. Maybe it's 6, 7, 8 seats. Those conversations are ongoing as well. But we're going to get these maps passed. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
So wait a minute. If I hear you correctly, you're saying that not only right now the maps are drawn to give Republicans 5 extra seats. You're saying that there are conversations right now that could increase that to 6, 7, or 8?
Our Democrat colleagues should be on notice that all options are on the table when it comes to us finishing the work of the people of Texas. We're serious about this. This is not a joke. This isn't for show. This isn't about press conferences with governors. This is about us rolling up our sleeves and doing the hard work we're elected to do. And like I said, if they think that we're just going to go away and make this easy, we're not. So show up, do the work, and vote on these maps. If not, then all options are on the table. Absolutely.
And one of the other things that I've spoken to various Democrats, they've told me that the one other reason that they're going to all these states is to try to encourage their governors, California today, Illinois earlier in the week, New York, and Massachusetts, is that they want those governors to change their congressional maps because they say if Texas is doing it mid-decade, why shouldn't those other states? What do you say to that?
Look, every state can do this mid-decade. It's lawful, it's constitutional. Texas can, and we are doing it. So can California and Illinois, New York if they want to. I would note, and I think it's important to note, that some of the states that our Democrats colleagues fled to, like the state of Massachusetts, for instance, Donald Trump got nearly 40%, between 35 and 40% of the vote in Massachusetts. That is no insignificant number, and yet the people of Massachusetts have 0 Republican Congress members, 0. And so for them to say that what Texas is doing is somehow unfair or unconstitutional, they're misrepresenting the facts. They know that's not true. And so while they can go to other states and say, well, if you do this, it's going to happen here, it can happen in every state across the country if we want it to.
And I know California has 43 Democratic districts and only 9 Republican districts. But let me also ask you as far as, where you see this going, because the state and the House, you put out civil arrest warrants for these members. I know DPS has been actively looking for House members. I don't think they've found anybody. Have they found any?
That is to be determined. We'll know more later today on that.
Okay, at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, but they've also, the speaker just yesterday put out a note saying, hey, if you left the state because you're breaking quorum, you're not going to get your paycheck deposited directly like always. You're going to have to pick it up by, coming into the office and all that. And there have been a number of other measures. What do you make of all these measures, and are they going to work?
It's just ridiculous and it's unreasonable that we're having to do this. Our Democrat colleagues should know that we're going to pass these maps. We're going to do the hard work that the people have elected us to do. This is not going to be like past quorum breaks where there's been a lot of hot rhetoric, but the issue at the end of the day kind of goes away and they come back quietly to work and we go on about our business. We are serious about this. This is what the voters of Texas expect and demand and importantly deserve for us to do. And so I would, and I'm saying it privately in my communications to them, and I'll say it here with you, I'm saying it publicly and privately, is again, show up and vote how you think you should vote. Vote your values, vote your district. If you want to vote yes, vote yes. If you want to vote no, vote no. But to tell your constituents, our 200,000 constituents as a House member, that I'm just going to go refuse to show up for work, and then I'm going to go hide out where no one can find me. I may show up with the governor of California or New York or Illinois or Massachusetts at a press conference. They're not doing their job. This is not their job. They should show up for work, and we should be able to go about our business.
I do want to ask you one other question. I appreciate your time, and that is Governor Abbott, as you know, filed this emergency petition with the Texas Supreme Court, a quo warranto, got to get used to this terminology, to try to remove him from office. You're a lawyer. Is this really going to hold up legally?
I think absolutely it should.
Why?
He filed it in the Supreme Court earlier this week against Representative Wu, who's the chairman of the House Democrat Caucus, seeking for Representative Wu to be removed from office because he's abandoned his job. He has neglected to do his duties, and under the law, he has abandoned his job. He might argue that he's doing his job, but you can't do your job as a state rep from Texas if you're hiding out in California. And so Representative Wu will have a chance to respond. I think the Supreme Court said that his response is due today, Friday, by the end of the day, so it'll be interesting to read his response. But Governor Abbott is a smart lawyer, former Attorney General, former Supreme Court Justice. He's been a great governor. He knows the law, and he's got a great legal mind. And I think the Supreme Court is going to have an interesting question to answer as to whether Representative Wu has actually abandoned his job. I believe that he has.
Well, we'll be waiting to see what they do.
And it'll be all moot if Representative Wu will just come back to work.
Right. Well, Representative Jeff Leach of Allen, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And Ken, I think one interesting takeaway that you heard Representative Leach say that I thought was interesting was the fact that he said, look, right now the congressional map as it stands has 5 seats, extra seats for the GOP. He's saying maybe they'll increase that to 6, 7, or 8. So we'll have to watch and see what happens here.
First time I hear that, Jack. We have a lot, you and I, to talk about in just a second. But before we get to that, I kind of want to set the scene a little bit. Let you know what's going on behind the scenes here before we revisit with Jack here, because the Texas House Democrats that have been in Illinois, we've been reporting on that all week. They are now, Jack mentioned it, beginning to leave that state, Illinois, in fact, and then start making their way out to California. Now, this is news that we received today, according to Governor Gavin Newsom's office. That's who released that information. So this all comes as Attorney General Ken Paxton and the House Speaker, Dustin Burrows, filed a lawsuit asking a court in Illinois to enforce Texas-issued arrest warrants for those House Democrats. In a statement, I want to read some of that to you. Paxton says, quote, "We are pursuing every legal remedy at our disposal to hold those rogue legislatures accountable. Texas deserves representatives who do their jobs instead of running away at the behest of their billionaire handlers." One of the named defendants, by the way, in that suit, that's State Representative John Boosie, responding to the lawsuit saying, quote, "Once again, the Attorney General and now the Speaker of the Texas House are using the justice system to hunt down their political opponents and to silence the voices of millions of Texans and Americans across the country." Adding, quote, "If defending democracy is a crime, I am proud to be an outlaw." Those are his words. The standoff between the Democrats and the Republicans, of course, it continues at this hour. The House is set to reconvene here in just about 30 minutes. And we're going to check in with Jack in just a little bit. We should also tell you that the more than 50 House Democrats could face removal from office if they're not back at the Capitol anytime soon. U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett, she was asked about expulsion efforts on the takeout with Major Garrett. Crockett says that she's not concerned at all about it after her experience with the quorum break that took place some 4 years ago. Have a listen to her statements.
And so when I participated in that quorum break, there were various things that they tried to submit to the Supreme Court at that time. And the Texas Supreme Court at that time, which for the most part has the same makeup as it did in 2021, it specifically said that these were political issues and therefore they had no jurisdiction to get involved. I don't think that this will be any different.
That was Jasmine Crockett, who you just heard from. We want to go ahead and check in now with our colleague Jack Fink, once again live inside the Capitol for us. Jack just spoke to Representative Leach about the quorum break and what we're expected to see maybe in the next 15 minutes here or so, Jack. And, all eyes are on the House floor. We're trying to see if they do have the 100 members so that they can have quorum and continue. Let's talk about a couple of things here, Jack. First and foremost, a lot has been made about the governor and even other elected officials here in the state, Republican leadership, asking law enforcement to go after the Democrats. What do we know about the DPS efforts right now to go and essentially arrest some of these Democrats who have broken quorum and compel them to physically come back into the Capitol. What's the latest on that?
Well, the first thing we should realize, everybody uses the word arrest, we're not talking about actually having lawmakers in handcuffs being brought in, but they would be escorted into the House chamber. And we do know that Texas DPS pretty much since Tuesday has been actively searching for House Democrats in the state of Texas. We haven't heard about any arrests. You just heard Representative Leach before say he hasn't heard, but we will find out certainly when the House gets into session at 1 o'clock. But another development that happened late yesterday in the afternoon was the state of Texas, through the Texas Attorney General's office, actually filed paperwork in a court in the state of Illinois asking for that state's assistance to bring the House Democrats who are still in Chicago back to Texas. What's interesting is when you look at where the filing was in Adams County, Illinois, that's on the western part of the state, and I looked it up and it's about 270 miles away from Chicago. So I'm not sure that there's going to be much luck with that effort there. But it certainly was a very interesting development because Republicans had watched Democrats break quorum before. We saw it 4 years ago. We saw it back in 2003. And I don't remember that happening before. I know that there was a lot of research a lot of research that had to take place to see if they could even do this. And we don't know whether a court there would accept this or not. So that's something to keep an eye on. I don't think a lot of people think it's going to work.
Yeah, certainly this time around, Jack, I think we can all agree that the temperature of all of this is a lot hotter right now, leading to so many developments that we have been following and so many calls for other law enforcement officials to get involved, not just DPS, but we know that Senator Cornyn asked the FBI to also get involved to bring some of these Democrats back to Texas. Hey, so another interesting point here, and I think you hinted on it when you were speaking to Representative Leach there. This idea that if you are breaking quorum, if you're not there as a lawmaker, you now, if you want your paycheck, right, if you want to get your salary, you got to come in physically and get it now. So that might be a way to entice them to come back. We also know about the $500 fine that could be imposed on them. Do we know right now if any of those two things or tools are being used right now to sort of entice the Democrats to come back?
Well, the Speaker put out late yesterday afternoon a note to the House members that those House members, those Democrats who broke quorum, the only way they can pick up their paycheck is by actually physically coming into the office to picking it up. Normally they have direct deposit just like the rest of the world. As far as those daily fines are concerned, it's $500 a day. That's going to be taking against, they can't use campaign funds for that. That's going to come out of their paychecks. And you know, Ken, it's actually very interesting, this whole notion of breaking quorum, because the Texas Constitution allows for it, but at the same time, it also allows for the lawmakers who are still here to enforce quorum. And so I was speaking with a legal historian, Dr. Bill Chris, about this very scenario. Let's take a listen to what he had to say. It's coming, I'm told, so let's hear what he has to say. This gentleman is actually based down in Corpus Christi, and he wrote a book on the Texas Constitution as well, which is what led me to do an interview with him.
We're going to hear that in just a second. It's getting queued up for you, Jack, right now.
Okay.
But as that gets queued up, and we'll play it for you just as soon as it's ready, we should let you know that we're keeping our eyes and ears open right now. We do have a camera inside the House floor right now. So we do have a live feed of what it looks like inside as well. We are about 11 minutes away now from the 1 o'clock session beginning again. Jack, I'm told that soundbite with the historian you were talking about is now ready, so let's have a listen to what you were talking about.
If we did see Texas DPS physically escorting House members who didn't, who broke quorum back into the House chamber. Would that surprise you?
Would not surprise me in these days and times. If you had asked me that question 30 or 40 years ago, I would say, yes, it surprises me. But we're beyond.
I'm sorry, would they be on solid legal ground doing so?
As a lawyer, I always tell people have misconceptions about the law, right? The law is what actually happens. The law is what actually gets enforced. And what's happening now is our political discourse has devolved to such an extent that rather than proceeding based on informal norms and protocols, people on both sides just seek for the most powerful remedy that they can find. And the question they ask is not, gee, let's go search through hundreds of years of legal precedent and decide whether this is a good idea. It's just like, who's going to stop me?
And I think that's actually a very interesting point, because what he's saying is that the state, the House leadership, the governor's office, they are really testing. They want to put everything that's in the Constitution to a test. And so we'll see, because we talked earlier about, for example, Governor Abbott's emergency petition to remove State Representative Gene Wu, the House Democratic Caucus chairman, remove him from office. That hasn't been done before. And so this is now going to force the Texas Supreme Court to actually take this issue up and go back and take a look what is in the Texas Constitution. So I think that's very interesting. And one other thing, Ken, real quick, before I send it back to you.
Yeah.
I just heard, as the soundbite was playing, the alarm bells were going off inside. Not alarms, but the sounding of the bell, which I think was a 10-minute warning that the session's going to begin.
Yeah,
so
we're about
10 minutes.
We're about 8 minutes away. So at any point, whenever you want to end this conversation to head back in there yourself, just let me know, and you can do that. We do have a couple more minutes. You bring up the Gene Wu issue, the Democratic caucus leader out of Houston area. Jack, at some point, do you get the sense that this is all, that these threats have any legs to it, or is it all just political theater, or is it 50-50 or 70-30? I mean, this is such a complicated issue to remove a sitting state representative that I'm wondering if it's just sort of a threat for now to get them to come back. Is that trouble worth going through for the Republicans who are calling for that? I mean, what do you make of all of that?
Well, I think, the governor and the attorney general, I think, and certainly House leadership here, the Republicans, you heard Representative Leach before, they are playing hardball here. This happened 4 years ago. They weren't happy about it. They changed some of the rules, like the $500 daily fine is now in place, but they're not happy about this, and they are going to go after these Democrats, do what they can to actually get them back here. It hasn't worked just yet, but when I spoke with Representative Wu the other night, he said, look, we had conversations. He and his Democratic colleagues who left said, we know the political dangers here. But when I was speaking with that gentleman you saw before, the Dr. Chris, I asked him about this very scenario, and he was looking through the Constitution, and he says his takeaway is that there has to be intent by the lawmaker to never return to the state of Texas for the state to remove him. And when I spoke with Representative Wu and I spoke with Representative Venton Jones, Democrat from Dallas, on Monday, and when you hear other Democrats as well, they insist they're not abandoning their office, they're not forfeiting their office, they are doing what their constituents want them to do, which is to fight back against these newly drawn congressional maps that would give Republicans at least 5 new seats. And so they say while they may be out of state, they are still fighting for their constituents. So, we'll see how this all goes. Representative Wu has to file his response to Governor Abbott's petition by 5 o'clock today with the Texas Supreme Court. So we'll see.
Yeah, to that point, let's have another listen to another take that the historian that you talk about, Jack, that he had. Have a listen to this.
We're talking about the Texas Constitution as it relates to this back and forth battle over redistricting and whether Democrats can break quorum and whether Republicans can actually bring them back through arrest powers to the Texas Capitol. And the Texas Constitution does allow both, right?
Yeah, the Texas Constitution vests in the legislature, each house of the legislature, their own rulemaking ability, including the ability to discipline members and also to compel their attendance.
And when we talk about compelling attendance, that does include physically constraining House or Senate members, in this case, House members, and actively returning them to the Texas Capitol.
Yeah, it can. There's another provision of the Texas Constitution that immunizes legislators from arrest while the legislature is in session. And so it's a little tricky because you can't arrest them, or law enforcement can't arrest them, but the legislature has the ability to compel their attendance, whatever that means. And this has never been litigated in Texas that I'm aware of. So in terms of what the difference is between being arrested, which is not supposed to happen if you're a legislator when it's in session, and being compelled to attend, nobody's really litigated that. So we don't know what the answer to that question is.
Yeah, that's something, Jack, that we'll just have to wait and see if it actually got to that point. But again, by the way, this is all very layered, very confusing if you're not a lawyer yourself. But I think at the core of all of it, Jack, is that, like you said, for the first time, lawmakers, namely Republicans now in the state, exercising any tool that they can and getting real serious about using any method that they can to bring some resolution now to have quorum so that they can proceed with the business of the special session.
Yeah, I feel like the Republicans, you know, the Constitution is out there, and I feel as if the Republicans are saying, look, it's in the Constitution, let's test it, let's put it to the test. And, you know, the other thing that is out there, Ken, there has already been some bills filed, I think one in the House, one in the Senate, that would basically it would be a state law that if a member misses consecutive days, a certain amount of consecutive days, presumably for breaking quorum, that be removed from the House or the Senate. And up until now, the only way to be removed from office is if House members expel one of their own. And so we saw that recently. And so that's why there's some doubt as to how far, you know, Governor Abbott's petition is really going to get. You know, that's really going to be up to the Texas Supreme Court. They're going to be the ones to decide how this process goes.
Yeah. Jack, stand by here. We're having a live look inside the Texas House right now. We are effectively, this is the 2-minute warning. So in about 2 minutes, we're expecting to hear the gavels in there. Speaker Burrows addressing those that are in attendance, and we will find out shortly here in very short order if in fact quorum has been reached so that the special session here in the state of Texas can continue. But as we wait, you know, just so many things this week, Jack, even today that we haven't heard of before that have us scratching our heads saying, can you do that? Can they do that? Is this legal? I mean, you know, just sending DPS troopers to look for the Democrats. Senator Corden asking the FBI to do the same. There was some paperwork filed earlier today, you mentioned, requesting that Illinois go after the Democrats that have gone to Illinois. But we know that Illinois leadership has said that that was a safe state, that they would not be doing any of that. So I don't see any of that happening. But then again, what we just heard a few minutes ago with Representative Leach, Jack, when he said, you know, we're looking to flip 5 seats, but if they keep this up, maybe we'll try 6, maybe 7, maybe 8. That took a lot of people by surprise. I think even you.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, the fact that my question is, where are they going to get those seats? What more are they going to take away? We already had, if you look at our maps in the North Texas area, we have 3 Democrats who serve in Congress in North Texas. Under this new map, the 32nd Congressional District, which is now held by Democrat Julie Johnson, under the new map, that is going to become a Republican majority seat because it's going to extend to far east Texas. But, you know, they took a district away, a Democratic district away from Houston. They took a Democratic district away from Austin. They took 2 Democratic districts away from South Texas under this new map. So where else would they go? Presumably San Antonio, maybe El Paso. That's a good question. I will say, Ken, because I think we're about a minute away here.
We're less than a minute.
It's going to be interesting to see how many.
I'm going to interrupt you here at any point.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish your thought, but if I interrupt you, my apologies beforehand, because we are looking inside you. I think any second.
No worries, no worries.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, we want to hear it. My thought is, how close are they going to get? They were 4 away on Tuesday. They had 96 in the chamber. So will they get there today? Will any of the Democrats who were still in Texas but not at the Capitol, will they have been escorted back to the chamber? We shall see. That's what I'm waiting to hear.
We shall see. We are all of our ears are perked right now, eyes wide open, Jack, as we continue to have a live look inside the House floor right now. You could see, well, not right now because the shots are blocked a little bit, but in a second here, the person standing in front of the camera will surely have a seat. Speaker Burrows is up at the podium right now, and we understand that any moment now he will, hit the gavel, and we will hear exactly what is going on in there as it pertains to the number, if in fact there are the 100 members that are present there to have a quorum to continue with the business of the special session. I think he's about to hit the gavel, so let's have a listen.
The House will come to order. Members, certain enforcement is requested by Representatives Moody, Raymond, Munoz, Barry Gonzalez, Roberto Cortez, Martinez, and Morales. You must register from your desk. You may not register for any member or any vote. Gracious Heavenly Father, we praise you for your grace, your mercy, and love. We're so thankful that nothing in this life, in the present or in the future, not any power in all of creation, can separate us from your love. Lord, help us to cast all anxiety and fears upon you. Help us to trust in you and not let fear and worry distract us from the work you've given us. Let your peace, which transcends all understanding, guard our hearts and our minds. We pray for those who are still struggling with recovery and their loss of loved ones.
Cast all anxiety and fears upon you. Help us to trust in you and not let fear and worry distract us from the work you've given us. Let your peace, which transcends all understanding, guard our hearts and our minds. We pray for those who are still struggling with recovery and their loss of loved ones. Heal them and comfort them, Lord. We ask for your hand of protection for all of the students and those working in our schools that will be returning to school in the coming weeks. Thank you for the wisdom and protection that our governor, our legislature, and all of our peace officers around the state provide to ensure each child is safe. We pray for your protection for all of our first responders as they dedicate their lives in the service and protection of others. Help every man and woman here to not become weary in doing good, for your word encourages us that at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. The chair recognizes the Honorable Pat Curry to lead us in the pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas flags.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the gallery, please join me in pledging allegiance to the flags of the greatest nation on earth and the greatest state in our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Members, may I have your attention? The roll has been called and a quorum has not been established. Here is where we are at today. Yesterday, Attorney General Ken Paxton and I took action to domesticate the civil arrest warrants in the state of Illinois, seeking to make them enforceable beyond Texas state lines. I expect suits in other states will be forthcoming. Chairman Guerin of House Administration has also contacted the Sergeant-at-Arms of Illinois House of Representatives requesting their direct assistance in returning absent members. I have been in constant communication with Department of Public Safety, which has been working to track down absent members in an effort to return them to our chamber. These efforts will continue through the weekend. For those that have fled to Illinois or to California, be reminded that the FBI's assistant has reportedly been enlisted, and their powers are not confined to any singular state's boundaries. As far as new administrative policies in our chamber go, Comptroller Kelly Hancock and I have enacted a new policy stating that any member absent for the purpose of breaking quorum will no longer have their paycheck or per diem deposited electronically. While the Constitution forbids us from withholding pay, it does not dictate how we issue the pay. Those checks must now be picked up in person on Capitol grounds, effective immediately. Starting today, to safeguard taxpayer dollars and account for forthcoming liabilities under Rule 5, Section 3 of House Rules, which authorizes fines for members absent without leave, 30% of each quorum-breaking member's monthly operating budget will be reserved and made unavailable for expenditure. Absent members must also appear in person to approve or enact any of the following: requests for travel reimbursement, personal action requests, including those increasing or decreasing staff salaries, approval for newsletters and House of Reproduction services. Failure to appear in person will result in the cancellation of your newsletters and the encumbered funds. We have all hands on deck. We are continuing to explore new avenues to compel a quorum, and will keep pressing forward until the job is done. Finally, today, Dr. Greg Bonin will file House Bill 3, the House's priority legislation for flood recovery and infrastructure funding, developed after 25 hours of testimony from Texans whose lives were upended by the July 4th floods. To those in California, Illinois, New York, or Massachusetts, wherever you may be, hear this: the bill cannot be referred to committee without a quorum. Every hour you remain away is time stolen from those Texans in need. Each one of you knows that eventually you will come back, and we will pass the priorities of the special session on the call. But with each passing day, the political cost of your absence is rising, and it will be paid in full. For the members present, I expect everyone to be here on Monday at the absolute latest. DPS is in the field to execute these warrants. Should they lead to the civil arrest of our absent colleagues over the weekend, you are on call. You will need to be available to return to Austin with a minimum of 6 hours of notice. Members, the call of the House remains in force. Under House rules, the House may adjourn from day to day. While I will call the House to order in a pro forma session tomorrow at 11 a.m., unless you receive a call to be here tomorrow because of DPS's good work, I will provide written permission to be entered in today's journal for each member registered as present during the session to leave the chamber and return 1 p.m. Monday. Members present today do not need to return until at 1 p.m. Monday. Members present today do not need to return until Friday. Until Monday. Mr. Guerin moves the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. Saturday. Is there any objection? Chair hears none, and the House stands adjourned.
All right, Jack. So there you have it. No quorum. They had 96 last time earlier this week, one less today at 95 members. And the Speaker outlined a lot of things that could potentially happen next. Your thoughts?
Well, I thought the Speaker was actually really trying to squeeze lawmakers even more, and now we're hearing about it in different ways. So first, let's take care of some of the housekeeping issues. As you said, 95 present, no quorum again, and now what he was saying, he was just telling members he expects them to be back by 1 p.m. on Monday, but he said if the DPS, which is still out in the field looking for these Democratic House members who have broken quorum and who have not shown up, he says that if a civil arrest is made this weekend sometime, House members will have 6 hours notice to get back here to the Texas Capitol because they want to get this done. They want to pass this House Bill 4, which is the new congressional map. They want to do this quickly because, as you heard the Speaker say, they've got other business to accomplish. House Bill 3, which was just filed, which would be for flood recovery. So I thought that was actually very interesting, putting everybody who is here on notice that they may have to get back here within 6 hours. The other thing that I thought was actually very interesting is, the Speaker had mentioned what we had talked about beforehand, which is that the Attorney General's office filed legal paperwork in the state of Illinois to basically effectuate the civil arrest warrants for members up there to bring them back to Texas. We'll see if that happens. But the Speaker said they're going to be doing that, sending that paperwork to the other states. California, for example, could be next because that's where members are today. Other members went to New York earlier this week. Other members were in Boston, Massachusetts earlier this week. So we're going to be watching to see paperwork there. The other thing that I thought was interesting is the way that the Speaker is going to try to incentivize them to come back in a different way, which was he announced that House Democrats, besides your $500 daily fines, now we're going to come after your district budget. Yep. So 30% of your district budget, we're going to hold that back until you come back. And then he was also talking about their reimbursements for travel, coming back and forth from their districts to the state capitol. They're going to put that on hold. And then the other thing that I thought would really hit them is they could reduce their salaries for their staff members. I wouldn't think that's going to go over too well either. So I thought that was actually very interesting that he said that. And then his message to them was, with regards to the flood recovery legislation that was filed in the House, they've held some hearings in committee on that. He said, every hour that you remain away is stolen from Texans in need. So, part of this is a public relations battle, right? Not just politics. And so Republicans are really putting the squeeze on Democrats here. Of course, Democrats have put it right back on the Republicans, saying that if this was so important, if flood recovery is so important, why do you have to inject this particular topic, redrawing congressional maps, in the same special session? So I think there was a lot here today, a lot said, very newsworthy, and we'll see what happens over the weekend.
Jack, we've heard earlier in the week, because we knew at some point that the issue of HB 3, the flooding relief for the Hill Country, it being held up because of lack of quorum. We knew that was going to come up, and we also know that earlier in the week, Democrats were saying that the House leadership, they could go ahead. They don't need quorum for that. They could just go ahead and effectively pass all of that flood recovery, the relief that is in HB 3. But now, as you mentioned, Speaker Burrows is talking about withholding that as well. But you talk about the issue with their district budget being withheld. You talk about their staff's pay being withheld, their per diems for travel, them having to physically come into the Capitol now to get their paychecks. They're not going to direct deposit them. The Speaker made it very clear that the Constitution says they can't not pay them. What it doesn't say is how they have to do it, right? So the direct deposit right now is off the table. But you also heard him once again bring up this idea that the FBI can essentially also get involved in this. And he also talked about, trying to compel some of these other states' law enforcement, namely in Illinois, to get involved. I'm assuming their state police to bring them back. At this point, though, Jack, we talk about all of this, and I mention it all in detail because I don't know what else can be done at this point, right, at this juncture, to try and entice the Democrats who've left the state to come back.
Yeah, I mean, you see it. I mean, you've heard it. The Republicans are putting everything they can to try to get the Democrats back. Regarding the FBI, I know Senator John Cornyn had made this request to FBI Director Kash Patel earlier in the week to assist, and if you look at the wording from Senator Cornyn's office, the FBI agreed to do that, agreed to help locate them. I'm not sure about the jurisdiction that they would be able to have to bring these folks back. Certainly the state officials, the DPS, thinks that they would be able to do this, but they are going through these other states. Whether these other states, which are run by Democrats, agree to do this, doubtful. They say they're going to try to protect the Texas Democrats as much as they can. So, aside from what they're doing, I think the fact that they're going after their staff budgets, they're going after perhaps the salaries of their staff, that certainly I would think would get their attention as well. And you heard Representative Leach earlier tell us at the beginning of our stream here that some members told him, which surprised me, but some of the Democrats told him they don't really want to be there. They'd rather be here, but they were told by other Democrats, you better be here. And, there are some Democrats who have been here at the Capitol. And there was a bit of a clip that I saw on social media from Representative Ana Maria Rodriguez Ramos from North Dallas. And she was with another House Democrat. And she was talking about this, and those Democrats out there are also putting pressure on the Democrats back here, saying, why are you there? You should be out and breaking quorum just like the rest of us. If we have that clip, I'd love to listen to them.
So we're here in an undisclosed location during quorum break. We were talking about some of the Democrats who actually made it to the House floor while we're out here sacrificing.
Yes.
Sacrificing away from our families. Right. You're away from your grandkids.
Yes.
And I'm away from my children. My daughter just got out of the hospital. My little one is barely going to start school next week, first day of school. Some moms are here.
Yes.
With their children.
With their children.
A grandmother is here with her child, but they're men, Latino men, who made it to the House floor and who were not doing what the majority of Texans asked us to do. What did they ask us to do, Christina, when they testified?
They asked us to break quorum. I remember hearing some people actually say
yes.
it. You guys need to break quorum. And, there's even Republicans who don't want this redistricting. I mean,
right.
They don't want to be in a new district.
Right.
They're
exactly.
comfortable with the person they voted for. So I don't understand why many of our colleagues on the Democrat side went back.
Jack, it's important to point out for those that stayed back, because those are, the words that we just heard are critical of their other Democratic colleagues. But you, when we chatted earlier this week, you made a point to describe why some of those Democratic colleagues needed to stay back here, because there was some opportunity to perhaps have some sort of negotiation going on with the Republicans, and they needed to be here in order to do that, right?
Well, I think there are two reasons that some of the Democrats would stay back. One, to your point, they would stay back because they are going to try to see what they can negotiate with the Speaker and the Republican House leadership. You heard Representative Leach before. The Republicans are in no mood to negotiate with Democrats who have left the state to break quorum. So I don't think that's really going to happen. But the other reason that Democrats may be back here, the Democrats who stayed, first of all, many of them who did stay are from South Texas. And other Democrats I've spoken to have told me that the reason these folks have stayed and have not left the state like the others is because it's not going to play well in their South Texas districts. In other words, I have to go to work every day, and you're not going to show up and do your job, really?
Yeah.
And so that may be at work here as well.
Jack, when we talk about what could potentially happen next, there are so many things on the table right now, and I like to sort of pick at you because you seem to have such a good grasp on everything, and I like to say that you're the only one that's got the crystal ball. So reach into your bag and pull that thing out again, your crystal ball. I'm just joking, but here's what I'm hearing, at least over here. Okay, the Democrats, by the way, have said that they're going to stay away. Right? They've made their claim that that's their stance. But what we haven't heard them do is respond to the threat of having their paychecks withheld unless they come and pick it up personally, having 30% of their district's budget cut, having their staff's budget cut. That's probably going to, lead to some phone calls from their staff, their per diems cut for traveling, and this idea that was invoked today that if the relief for flooding does not happen in Central Texas, in the Hill Country, that it could potentially be all blamed on the Democrats for holding it up. All of that bagged together, do you think this time around that maybe Monday at 1 o'clock we might have the 100?
Maybe. I mean, I wish my crystal ball was that great. If my crystal ball, Ken, was really good, I'd be in Vegas right now. But, the other thing I want to say is that I'm sure the staff members of these Democrats were warned that, it may get to this. But, you bring up a point about how long are these Democrats going to stay, right? How long can they really stay? 4 years ago, I think they stayed out 6 weeks. The end of the special session is coming on Tuesday, August 19th. And the Democrats have said they're going to stay out until then. We'll see what happens on Monday, of course. But, the other issue is the governor has reportedly said he's going to keep calling special sessions. So, and only the governor can do that. So if this special session doesn't work, boom, then he will presumably call another special session right away, perhaps on August 19th, the same day that the first special session ends. So, I think that is a very interesting scenario, how long it is, but they can't wait forever. And, one thing that I do want to let you know is that another Republican state representative is going to be talking with us. Our photographer, Manuel, is going to be miking him up. He's in the process of miking it up. And for our folks back in the studio, he's Representative Matt Shaheen is going to be on a separate mic from mine, just letting everybody know there. But I am interested in hearing what Representative Shaheen is going to have to say just about what happened and what the speaker said. So
go ahead and get him mic'd up.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead and get him mic'd up.
With you.
Is
Matt,
he ready?
Well, here he is right now.
Oh, yeah.
We have him right now. Yes. So this is Matt Shaheen, Republican of Prosper. Yeah. Thank you so much. So we heard the speaker obviously fell short, 5 short.
That's right.
But the speaker really seemed to be going after the Democrats even more now as far as their budgets in their district offices, perhaps going after those employees' salaries.
That's right.
How big of an impact is that? I mean, if you heard that, what would your reaction be?
It's going to have a huge impact. In fact, I expect we'll probably have quorum early next week. We're going to meet again at Monday at 1 o'clock. The speaker has been fantastic with respect to making it very clear. Look, these Democrats have abandoned their constituents. They've betrayed the state of Texas. We as a body cannot move forward to address really important issues like the flood. We want to provide additional property tax relief. We want to do some educational reforms around testing and the like. And these Democrat House members are stopping us from doing that work. And it's important. It's important to the state of Texas. So what you're going to see is a progressively more aggressive approach at bringing these Democrats back. I will tell you this, Jack, there is right now several DPS agents across the state of Texas that are watching where these Democrats are and will be making decisions with respect to bringing them to the Capitol this weekend.
And what was your, you were in there obviously. Were you surprised by the outcome? The fact that they were 5 short?
No, I think what's happening now, I mean, remember, if you take a look at this from an individual Democrat House member's perspective, right? We're running ads in their districts. We want to make it very clear that they've abandoned their constituents and that there's going to be a political price for this. So I think what they're doing is they're having discussions amongst each other. I don't think they want to come back 1 or 2. I think they want to come back as a group. The Democrat caucus is very divided. You're hearing a lot that they're in California, they're in Illinois. Quite frankly, a lot of them are actually still in Texas. And so they're trying to make political calculations and the like, and how much do I listen to these national figures and how often do I just listen to my constituents? So the pressure is going to remain, and my guess is they'll be back next week.
One thing I'm wondering in all of this, I mean, obviously everybody here at the Capitol is buzzing about this. This has made national headlines, obviously, because of the congressional seats, and other states, are the Democratic states, saying, hey, we may do this too. But everyday Texans, I mean, are your phones lighting up in your district office about this?
I've got a lot of Texans that are frustrated. They're appalled that we can't tackle the flood issue. That hit home to all 30 million Texans with those floods, and just the horrible loss of life, the families, and the struggles that they're going to have ongoing. So people are appalled. We're getting responses. I'm getting text messages from constituents. I'm getting emails. I'm getting phone calls. And look, there's frustration about they're interfering. They're getting in the way of additional property tax relief. That politically is not a great place to be. So yeah, no, this is resonating with everyday Texans, Republican, Democrats, Independents.
I want to ask you, because we hear, and you just mentioned, and we've heard before, that Texas DPS has agents looking for these members of the state house. And I mean, how hard can this really be, right? I mean, if you really want to track somebody down, you look at their cell phones and all that. I mean, law enforcement can do that. Right. But can that really be done as far as, using those kind of methods to track down a House member? You know what I mean? They're not criminals, obviously.
These aren't criminal.
These are civil arrest warrants.
But they are arrest warrants. So any avenue that DPS can take to bring those members back to the Capitol, they're executing them. They've been just today, they've been at it since 5 a.m. this morning.
And, the other thing that the Speaker talked about is yesterday, the Attorney General's office filed paperwork in the state of Illinois to try to effectuate anybody still there, and there are members still there, to bring them back home. That's a Democratic state. He's also talked today about adding that, to send this same paperwork to California and New York and Massachusetts, perhaps. What Democratic state's going to say, oh, sure, we'll help you out?
Look, we're looking at every avenue to bring the Democrats back and get to work. And so we're going to talk to Democrat states. We've even, the Speaker's office has actually reached out to the Sergeant of Arms.
Yes, that's right.
At the Illinois legislature. So look, we're going to look at every option we have, and we're going to keep the pressure on.
And I did want to ask you about the maps, right? The congressional maps. That's what this whole fight is over, which has made national headlines. So do you support these maps as far as giving Republicans 5 extra seats, and if so, why?
Well, with the maps, if you look at the maps, what's really interesting about them is there's 5 seats that we're focused on. 4 of the 5 are majority minority. They're heavy Hispanic seats, and they're going Republican. And so if I were the Democrats, I would be more worried about that. If you look at their extremist policies, as far as children and the role of government and supporting terrorist organizations like Hamas, they're losing some of their bread and butter constituency, like the Hispanic community, that is making these historic shifts over to the Republican Party. So if I was the Democrats, if they wanted to listen to me, I would advise them to look at where they're bleeding and address that, and leave this alone, because at the end of the day, they're going to come back. They're going to be in the Capitol. They're going to come back. So it's just a matter of when. And again, the way I'm viewing things, it's probably going to be next week. But if you look at those maps, that's a bad sign for the Democratic Party. Not only just Texas, but across the nation. It's showing this shift. And a lot of people really aren't talking about this. Even the 5th seat, it's not a majority minority, but it's 48% Hispanic. So that is a big problem for the Democratic Party. And this is a self-inflicted wound because a lot of the extremist policies that they've been adopting, I mean, we had to pass legislation to protect children from being castrated, from gender modification. And the Democrats oppose that. Well, your everyday Texan doesn't like that. And so anyhow, they've got bigger problems to address than just these maps.
When I spoke with a Democratic member of Congress today, Mark Vesey of Fort Worth, about this and other Democrats, the problem they have in particular is that they say the rules, Republicans, President Trump, who initiated this with the governor, they're trying to change the rules mid-decade. I know the law allows it, but we haven't seen this before where you do a mid-decade redistricting. And so they say that's the bridge that is too far for them, and that's why they say it's important for them to be in California, to be in Illinois, to be in New York, to be in Massachusetts, because they want to convince their governors to do the same thing that's done here.
You know, everybody's laughing at them being in those states, heavy gerrymandered for the Democrats. Look, we got a notice from the Department of Justice with issues, and we're trying to address those, and we're going to address them.
And so you think this is all going to be resolved next week? You think Monday?
I have a high level of confidence it'll be next week. Whether it's Monday, I'm not sure, but I think sometime next week.
Now, the Speaker put you guys on notice, all the House members, 6 hours.
That's right.
So are you going back home, or are you going to stick around?
No, I'm going to go home because I'm only 3.5 hours away. But if I get a text or a phone call tomorrow, I'll be here. I'm at the Speaker's beck and call.
All right, Representative Matt Shaheen, Republican from Prosper. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sir.
All right. So, Ken, there you hear it. You heard Representative Shaheen basically said the same thing, where he has heard from Democratic members that some of them are not happy about this either. But he expects them to be back sometime next week. So we shall see. What takeaways did you have from the conversation?
His reassurance that sometime next week, because we keep hearing that the Democrats are saying they're going to sit this out the entire session, which ends August 19th. We know that there's been some dissent even between their own ranks, between those who left and those who have stayed. I think his reassurance that sometime next week certainly stands out to me. Additionally, he mentioned that the majority of the Democrats who broke quorum, who were not at the Capitol, he says they're actually in Texas, and that DPS has been looking at for them since 5 o'clock this morning. We know that DPS was called in and that they, were looking to effect these civil arrest warrants, civil, not criminal. What I hadn't heard before is an elected leader talk about how many of them are actually here in the state of Texas. So, all right, Jack, well, here we are again. Monday, 1 o'clock, I guess, is our next target that we're looking at, unless something happens over the weekend, right? We know that they've all been put on a standby notice. We heard Representative Shaheen there saying, of course, he's from Prosper, 3.5 hours away. So if his phone goes off, he'll be hitting the road, no doubt. Yeah, Jack, I mean, a lot to be said. You said it earlier in this stream here, a lot of newsworthy bullet points coming out of just one short session that we saw here today. But yeah, certainly something that we're going to be keeping a real close eye on. I wanted to ask you, have you heard at all from any of these Democratic leaders or anybody from the caucus? I know you've been busy chatting with us here, but I don't know if your phone's blowing up at all, or if you're heard about anybody saying, okay, well, maybe we do reconsider coming home now. Probably too soon for that, huh?
Yeah, well, I will be busy. Yeah, I'll be busy working the phones to see what we can. I know one of my colleagues, our colleague Andrea Lucia, was inside, and Andrea, any luck getting Democrats to speak with us? I know Manuel will get you mic'd up here. While we bring Andrea in, Andrea was here inside the chamber as all this was going on, and I know she was trying to see if any of the Democrats who were remaining here in the state of Texas, to see if they would be willing to come on. And so as you get mic'd up, thank you so much, I appreciate it. And so, any luck getting Democrats to talk to you?
It was a bit of a mad dash, but we did catch up with Representative Richard Raymond,
Okay.
from Webb County. He stopped to talk with some of the reporters who were standing there outside the House, and answered some questions about why he, as a Democrat, did make an appearance here today.
And so what did he tell you? What did he tell everybody?
He said he's playing a role. He said he's in absolute alignment with what is going on with his colleagues, that they are all in agreement, and that he is playing his own individual role. He said he couldn't really reveal everything that he was doing here, but he said, there's no division between them on where they stand. They are all against these redistricting maps. He also, I think, pushed back when questioned about whether it's a waste of money to drag this out and to not have his colleagues here come to vote. And he said he felt like this is going to lead to redistricting every 2 years, and that would be an enormous waste of money. So he said, again, he's very much in opposition. There isn't any divide between him and his colleagues who are not here today, but that he is playing his own role, the details of which he didn't want to get into.
Sure, and there's been a lot of back and forth about the pressure that they're under. Was he asked about this? That because we played a clip before from Democratic State Representative Ana Maria Rodriguez Ramos from Dallas, who was not happy that some of these Democrats stayed here. So was he asked about that? Did he have anything to say?
I did ask him about that, and he said, no matter what they do, if they stay, if they go, they're going to face opposition. There's going to be constituents out there who disagree with their approach and their strategy, but he kept refocusing the conversation back to what matters is we all agree on the goal here, which is that this redistricting should not pass, that these maps should not pass, and that what we're headed toward is redistricting every 2 years, which is something he thinks nobody wants to see.
Well, yeah, because, how popular is it really for these new maps to be drawn? The activists, I guess, Republicans certainly like it right now. Democrats don't like it, but what about everyday Texans, right? Do they like this? We'll have to wait and see what shows up. But the fact that the speaker today, we were just talking about it with Representative Representative Shaheen, about the speaker is going to go after their district budgets. The speaker is going to go perhaps after their salaries of their staffers. Was he asked about that, Representative Raymond?
I mean, he said that it is extreme, but he also said that there's a lot of things happening right now that are extreme. And so extreme but not surprising seemed to be his thoughts on it.
Okay, but did he think that it may have some an impact on his the other Democrats who are not here?
Oh, that I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't know.
All right. And my last question to you, and I appreciate it, I put you on the spot, man. I appreciate
it's all right.
it.
I'm here for you.
But as far as, the mood inside the chamber, you were inside.
Yes.
And so any takeaways that you thought that struck you at all?
It's strange. I heard some applause toward the end from the Republicans, and I presume they were applauding at some of the measures that have been taken to try to pressure the Democrats to come back. But I don't think anybody was surprised that they didn't reach quorum. It was kind of a relaxed atmosphere as things were getting started. People were talking to themselves. And then, of course, we heard the speech from the speaker going into and detailing everything that he is doing to try to pressure these Democrats to come back. And I think I don't want to read too much into it, but it did seem like at least the Republicans that I was standing near were happy with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Republicans are playing hardball now. We certainly heard that from the speaker again today. And they're trying to get these Democrats to come back one way or the other. And so we will see what happens over the weekend, because DPS agents are still out there looking for the Democrats in the state of Texas. And at the same time, they're trying to send paperwork to other states, these Democratic states, to try to get them to honor these civil arrest warrants and bring these members back. So we shall see. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Ken, that's what it looks like here. I think a lot of these lawmakers are probably going to go back home right now because they have the weekend unless, we heard 6 hours notice to come back.
Yeah, 6 hours notice. Again, I think we're all on standby, not just the lawmakers, to see what happens there, if anything happens over the weekend, quite frankly, Jack. But if not, all eyes right now on Monday at 1 o'clock, and we will see certainly what happens then. Jack Fink, thank you so much for all of your coverage, for your interviews, your insight on all of this. We certainly appreciate it. And I invite our viewers to follow you along on social media, as well as our stream here and on air at CBS News Texas for the very latest on this, because we are going to continue to stay on top of it. Jack Fink, thank you very much. And of course, we will continue to bring you the latest as this pretty big, massive story continues to develop. You can find the continuing coverage on the CBS News app. It is right under the Texas section for you. And with that, we say we will see you on air on CBS News Texas at 4 o'clock.